Hello students, welcome to a very important session by Vajiram and Ravi. If you are an aspirant who are just starting their preparation and targeting UPSC 2026, or if you are a student who has given Prelims 2025 but could not clear, this session is specially for you guys. Now let us try to have a look at this number, 14,161. Does this number ring a bell in your head? Can you correlate it with your UPSC preparation? No, right? So these are the number of students who have cleared Prelims 2025 and they are going to write mains this year. And I'm very sure that majority of the students who could not clear this prelims, they are feeling very sad, frustrated and disappointed. At this point of time, many students think a lot of questions and experience a lot of emotions. Questions like, are they good enough? Did they do enough? And is their preparation going on in the right direction? And they are exposed and vulnerable to feel a great degree of emotions as well. Emotions ranging from sadness to extremes of shame and guilt and disappointment. And this session is to cater to the needs of these aspirants itself. That there is a silver lining in failure as well. That ultimately it is the failure which gives us the opportunity to pause and then to reflect and then to reorient our strategy. Now, Albert Einstein had said, and very famously he had said that insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. Now, this is the sad reality of multitude of aspirants who fail year in and year out, but still they continue going the same path. They do not pause, reflect and reorient their strategies. And through this session, we are going to help you achieve that itself. Now, what is the silver lining in failure? Because since failure provides us the opportunity to pause and reflect and to actually identify where our gap resides. Now, this, whatever is happening with you right now after failing the Prelims 2025, it is not new. It has happened with many candidates and even candidates who have topped this examination. Yes, I'm talking about Shakti Dubey, and she had secured rank 1 in the previous year of UPSC Civil Services examination. But you will be amazed to know that in the first 3 attempts, she herself was not able to clear this prelims. And prelims is not only an examination where it will check your knowledge, but it is also about your decision-making skills, how well you perform under pressure, and about your entire awareness and X factor, which comes by solving a lot of mocks, a lot of involvement with the test series, how you solve it and how you analyze it. And the agenda of today's discussion is this only, is that we are going to create a roadmap for the students who were not able to clear the Prelims 2025, so that we should be able to reorient your learning strategies so that you could also go ahead and crack this examination. So the 3-point agenda for today's discussion is that first of all, we'll try to identify what are the core learnings from Prelims 2025. Then we'll use these learnings to design a very appropriate and a very minimalistic strategy for the students so that they could use those strategies to clear this examination. And thirdly, we'll talk about the road ahead, that what are the options lies ahead for the students, right? So now quickly jumping into the first part, that what did we learn from Prelims 2025? Now, ultimately, the learning can be summarized in 5 important topics. The first was that after giving this examination, students were very sure now that ultimately it is all about the basics and the conceptual clarity. Even if you have done the NCERTs correctly and if you remember the facts and the concepts very accurately, 100% you will be able to solve the questions in a very easy manner. We are going to discuss and I will highlight it to you certain questions from these 5 categories so that you will get it very easily that what kind of questions UPSC is trying to ask. Now the second is the application of concepts. Knowing concepts is fine, but ultimately UPSC is trying to check how are you able to apply those concepts in real life, and that is what has been checked in this year's pre as well. The third is attention to detail, whether you are meticulous about reading those questions which have been given in the paper and whether you are keen enough to actually identify the patterns, what kind of data they are putting into the questions. The fourth is the intersectionality. Now, intersectionality is the core grammar of creation of UPSC questions. Now, if we are reading several subjects, so UPSC will create questions from the overlapping areas where two subjects intervene. For example, if there is a convergence between history of India and the geography of India, you are well poised to expect that there might be a question coming from these overlappings, and this is what we need to learn. And the fifth is, we cannot right now, based on the pattern that the UPSC is asking questions, we cannot expect the students to ignore certain important facts as well. Okay, while you're reading the newspapers or while you're reading the textbooks, you might come across certain facts, or if you're reading, scrolling through the reels as well, or YouTube shorts, there are certain important snippets of information that we come across. However, many times we tend to ignore such facts, but UPSC has started asking certain trivial facts which can get very handy and can fetch you 4 or 5 marks extra, right? So this is what we are going to actually discuss, and I'll try to show it to you certain questions from each segment that we had discussed. Now, from these questions, it is quite clear that one question was on Raja Ram Mohan Roy and another was on ordinance. This belongs to the first criteria, that is the basic conceptual clarity. If you have read through the basic NCERTs, if you have gone through the basic concepts, these two questions are extremely doable. There is nothing new in it. And I'm sure that if you guys must have solved the prelims test series, such kind of questions are there. And it is very well expected of the students that they should know such kind of things. This was the first category. Now, the second category applies to the application of concepts. Now, there is one part of the concept which is called the fiscal deficit. The application is, how do you calculate it? And this time the UPSC played a game with this thing, that ultimately they provided mathematical figures and they wanted students to calculate it. So just knowing the concept is not enough. Ultimately UPSC wanted that you should be able to apply that concept of fiscal deficit to get to the right answer. Similar thing was with the space missions as well. Usually when we try to read about the space missions, we mug up the names, we try to identify which country is launching that space mission, but rarely we actually look into the deeper layers of the knowledge, is that ultimately what is the application of those space researches. And that is why application is the mainstay, and it is going to stay in the pedagogy which the UPSC uses for formulation of the questions. The third is attention to detail. Now, what do we mean by attention to detail? So that whenever you are reading the question, you should be very clear-cut and meticulous with respect to the information which has been provided. Are you paying enough attention to the questions which have been given in the examination? For example, in this BRICS question, the third statement read as, the theme of the 16th BRICS summit was strengthening multiculturalism for just global development and security. Now, if you would have read this particular say news piece, you would have known that, okay, strengthening multiculturalism for just. However, this multiculturalism word had to be swapped with multilateralism, and that is where the UPSC played the game. And similarly, UPSC swapped the scores which had been provided in the question for the Kho World Cup. So what is expected from the students is that they should have a keen attention to details as well, that they should be meticulous with respect to the data or the information which has been provided. Never be overconfident in reading the question and just directly jumping onto the picking the right answers, right? So this might cause you a great loss. The third is intersectionality. Now, as we know that UPSC loves intersectionality. Now, since the nature of the UPSC syllabus is like that we are trying to read different subjects at every time. So there is overlapping among various subjects, and UPSC is going to ask the questions from this overlapping areas as well. Now, for reference, take this example, take this question. So here they have asked about the Mahajanpad areas, and they have tried to link it with the geographical indicators of those areas. So this is only possible if you have completed the respective subjects and then trying to revise it very meticulously, revise it in a very layered fashion, trying to apply concepts which you have learned from one subject into the applicational areas of another subject. And this is what you need to develop. And the last is the crude and trivial facts, which I had told you earlier, is that whenever we come across any important information or any kind of trivial data that we come across while scrolling, while watching certain YouTube videos, So nowadays the point is that if you look into this question, that 96, it is trying to understand that okay, whether a student has an idea with respect to the factual correctness, that which year belongs to which year in a way, right? So which festival or the secular festival, International Year of Women Farmer will fall into which year. So ultimately it is, if you are able to remember such things, fine. However, your learning pedagogy, your learning style should involve these aspects as well, that you cannot outrightly ignore such facts. Nowadays, we need to reorient our strategy in such a manner so that such kind of questions can also be tackled with. 100% these were there in the news or the current affair as well. And this is what we need to learn, right? And ultimately, what we need to do to reorient our strategy is to have an introspection checklist. I, as a tutor, will never be able to help you if you are not able to do an honest reflection or an introspection. And I, as a tutor, will be happy to share with you certain parameters which you can use to go for that honest introspection or that honest reflection. Now, what are those parameters? Now, since you guys have, I'm assuming that since you guys have not cleared this prelims 2025, and if we need to devise a new strategy, we need to come up with the reality of our own preparation, the reality of the present day, and based on the realities of the present day, we will be able to carve out the possibilities of the future, right? So what are those parameters which will help us do the introspection in the most honest way? First of all, I would want you to ask certain important questions to your own self. First of all, whether you were able to complete the syllabus or not. Secondly, after having completed the syllabus, did you actually acquire the depth which is required in the concepts? Thirdly, whether you had notes for the entire GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 and for the prelims part as well. After you were having the notes, whether you were able to revise them, because there is no point of creating the notes if you are not revising. Many of the times students, they fall in the same trap that they keep on running towards completion of the subjects rather than waiting, pause and then reflect back whether whatever notes they are making, are they trying to utilize it for the revision or not. Because ultimately the game relies in the active recall, that whether the neural pathways are there between your brain so that you should be able to recall the information at will whenever you want. And this is what is judged in the prelims examination as well, that you need to recall the information which you have mugged up, say 2 months ago, in a given span of time, and that is only possible through deliberate practice. Then whether you have solved a lot of mock tests or not, and just solving mock tests is not enough, whether did you go for intensive review of those mock tests or not. So you just have to ask yourself these questions and provide honest answer to these things. And once you are done with the honest answers, then only this video is going to help you. Then only whatever strategy I am going to tell you is going to help you, right? And after that, what kind of MCQ aptitude did you have? Whether you are able to deal with different kind of data which has been provided in the MCQ. See, clearing prelims is not only about knowledge. Knowledge is right away put in front of you in form of a MCQ. The answers are also lying in front of you. But are you able to use that data to discern the wrong options from the right ones? To actually identify that, okay, this statement can be wrong. So such kind of skill set is what we call as MCQ aptitude. And this is what which you need to develop after deliberate practice, after solving mocks, after analyzing and reviewing the mocks, after reviewing whatever kind of performance you have provided in the mocks. And lastly, what kind of stress management aptitude you have for your own self. Are you able to deliver the efficient results under the stressful conditions or not? And this again, you will be able to do it with the help of mocks. Without giving proper mocks which are attuned to the needs of the UPSC, you will never be able to identify whether you are ready with your MCQ aptitude, and secondly, how well do you perform under the conditions of the stress. And whatever stress you are having while giving the mocks, believe it students, it will be 10x more when you will be sitting in the examination hall in the year of 2026, 24th of May, because that is the date in which the UPSC Civil Services Prelims exam is going to be conducted. And once you are done with this introspection checklist, once you have got an idea after being honest that okay, this is where that I stand today, and based on the whatever answers you get after the introspection, you need to plan for 2026. And for planning, only one principle matters. That is, it was said by Peter Drucker, and he had said that whatever gets measured gets managed well. So the entire philosophy or the ideology we try to implement it in our planning has to follow or comply with this principle, that it should be measured so that we can manage it well. And for this thing, we are going to utilize a very important methodology which is known as OKRIs, which is short form for objective, key results and interventions. Now this methodology has been followed by various stalwarts in the productivity ecosystem. For example, Larry Page, who was the co-founder of Google, they have utilized OKRIs to attain massive results in their own domain, right? So this is what we are going to follow in creating and curating a strategy or a plan for decimating the UPSC CSE 2026. Now, this particular goal setting framework works in this way, that ultimately what is our objective is to crack UPSC 2026, right? And what are the key results that we expect? Key results are nothing but the measurable steps which can be measured in a quantifiable manner. That if we are trying to achieve this particular objective of cracking UPSC 2026, we should be able to measure what kind of output it should provide. So first key result should be that we should be able to cover the syllabus of GS along with essay by December, and we should be able to revise it at least once. Similar should go for optional as well, that we should be able to finish the optional syllabus by December and at least twice the revision. We should be able to write at least 12 mock tests for mains and at least 20 mocks for prelims. Now, while we are trying to achieve these objectives, we should be able to see the key results. Key results are the measurable or quantifiable results, tangible results that we should be able to see, that okay, from the month of say June till December, we should be able to complete the GS syllabus, GS 1, 2, 3, 4 and essay. We should be able to finish the options syllabus. We should be able to give 12 mock tests for the mains, and similarly we should be able to give 20 mock tests for prelims. And what are those interventions that we should be taking, or what are those actions we should be taking so as to achieve these key results? So first of all, to get the GS syllabus complete with appropriate conceptual depth, we should have the right learning strategy that we will discuss. Apart from it, we should have a month-wise plan. Apart from it, we should have some mock tests. We should enroll for some mock tests, of course, for mains and for prelims. And we should have a action towards revisions as well, because revisions is the dark horse which is fueling this particular examination, and only those students are able to clear this exam who go for more and more number of repetitions. So these are the frameworks that we are going to follow. That what is our objective? To crack UPSC Civil Services 2026. How? By measuring few things which are quantifiable. Majority of the students, they face a problem in this preparation for this examination, since the gestation period for this examination is quite long. Right now, if you want to write mains for CSE 2026, it is almost 1 year and 4 months apart. So how do you maintain the same tempo? How do you maintain the same direction and vision through which you are going to start today? Only by having measurable key results, that which is available and quantifiable, measurable at every step of the trajectory that we are going to follow, and ultimately you should have a list of interventions or the actions which you are going to take, which will result into these key results, and ultimately it will go to like achievement of the objective. And this is what we are going to start with, the first intervention, which is the right learning strategy. Now, one of the key assumption when it comes to the UPSC preparation, it is that majority of the students, whether be it the rank 1 or a person who could not clear this exam, they read from almost the same resources, same books, they are watching the same YouTube channels, they are watching or reading the same newspapers, they are like learning from the same faculties. So where does this difference lie in the outcome, which is resulting in one person becoming a topper in the examination and another person not able to clear this examination? So this difference lies in how a person thinks, because ultimately your thinking will define how efficiently you are going to learn, and then based on your learning style, your notes will be decided, your notes will be more structured, and based on these notes, your answers will be accordingly structured. So if you are thinking in a structured way, you are learning in a structured way, your notes will also be structured, and ultimately these notes get reflected into your structured answers, which have not only the structural aspect to it, but conceptual competence along with plethora of examples, and this makes the answers to be perfect. So what we need to do is that we need to hit the root cause, that is how a person thinks, and this is where I need to help you understand the right way of thinking, which will translate into the right way of learning. Now what happens is that UPSC is bothered about asking issues. So whether be it the pre or the mains, UPSC will frame questions from the various issues. Now issues, every issue will have certain topics or certain debates. Every debate will have certain arguments for the various pros and cons part of the debate. This is what has been asked in the UPSC mains as well. Every argument will be based on certain conceptual background to it, and ultimately every concept also has certain facts associated with it. Now what we need to understand is that this triangle and this circle, now whatever falls within this triangle, this portion is asked in the mains examination, and whatever falls within the circle, this asked in the prelims examination. And after years and years, students are not able to identify these simple things, that ultimately it is the debates, arguments and the concepts which are asked in the mains. So you need to make your notes accordingly, that if you are making notes for the mains, your notes should comprise of these three things: whatever the debates are, whatever the core arguments are for and against, and whatever the underlying concept through which this issue is interconnected. And for the prelims, ultimately what we need to note over here is that concept is asked and the facts are asked. So our prelims notes should be structured in such a manner. However, what we need to note over here is that ultimately it is the concepts which forms the most important leg in helping you clear the prelims and mains, because this is the common or the overlapping area between the mains and the prelims. And this is the template which you should keep in mind while studying any topic. What is the biggest mistake which has been committed by students is that as soon as they start studying after after they have failed in the prelims, and then when they pick themselves up and when they start reading it, they do not see any issue from this template. Now what they will do is that they will try to learn each and everything which is there under the sky under that particular topic. However, at the onset of learning a particular issue itself, you should be able to gauge the end use, that okay, if this is the issue, how it can be asked in the mains and how the same thing can be asked in the prelims. Now let me help you understand this with the very simple example, right? So for example, there can be a topic of Panchayati Raj institutions. This Panchayati Raj institutions, now there are certain issues in Panchayati Raj institutions. For example, the issue of funds, functions, functionaries, functionality, the issue of democratic decentralization, right? Also, there are issues of 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, their provisions. Now, what we need to understand is that in the prelims, maximum the provisions of the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act and whatever the state legislations can be asked. These are factual or conceptual. However, in the mains, what we need to understand is that the issues will be asked or the debates will be asked. And if you are able to identify these dimensions beforehand itself, then only you will be able to make your notes in the best way possible, and then only you will be able to write better answers. Majority of the students, they face a problem in delineating or in identifying and demarcating the prelims from the mains, and you should try to reorient your learning strategy the right way, so that for every topic you are very clear cut in your mind that what is the end use. And this is what I call as end use doctrine, that you should, at the onset of reading any issue, you should know that what is the end use, how it can be asked in the mains and how it can be asked in the prelims. And based on this understanding only, you have to curate your notes. And this is the one of the best ways to have a very structured, crisp notes, right? Now, coming to the timeline of it. Now, as we know that right now we are sitting in June, and the prelims 2026 is on 24th of May. And we have almost 1 year for the preparation. Now, what we need to do is to create a good timeline so that you can stick to, and ultimately it will result in very marvelous learning outcomes. So what we need to do over here between June and between December 2025 is that our learning has to be integrated. That major focus has to be given over here in the main syllabus completion. Along the prelims cannot be ignored. So this is the core priority area, that between June, mains has to be focused, along with prelims also has to be done. For example, let us try to apply the same template. If you are trying to study GS2 local governments, and in the local governments, if you are trying to study Panchayati Raj institutions, then whatever the mains related themes are there or mains related issues are there, for example, the revenue collection of the PRIs, the issues with funds, issues with functionaries, these can be asked in the mains. So the end use doctrine says that these topics can be asked in the mains. However, when you are studying local government, also please try not to ignore the aspects of the prelims as well. That whenever you are trying to read this thing, please go through the chapter in your textbook for the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Read the various provisions like Article 243A, which deals with Gram Sabha, 243B, which deals with the constitution of 3 tiers of the Panchayati Raj institutions, 243C and D, and so on. So what I want to say is that there has to be a convergent approach. So if you are dealing with the mains issues, also just try to have an idea with respect to the pre as well. So what you need to do over here is that always try to apply the same learning template that we had decided, that the triangle has to go for the mains for every topic and the circle has to go for the prelims. And in the month between June and December 2025, we need to go for a hybrid or an integrated approach with more emphasis on the mains preparation. And students should make sure that they are able to cover GS 1, 2, 3 and 4 along with essay before December 2025 and along with one revision. And one of the best ways to do it is to reorient it. Start with analyzing of the PYQs which are there for the mains, identify the themes which are there for the mains, and then ultimately try to reorient your learning in those fashion. While doing the mains, do not try to ignore the prelims as well. One of the best strategy with respect to essay is that at least try to write one essay per month. That is the minimum. I should say that at least bi-weekly you should write, that after 2 weeks one essay should be written. So this should be the core of the core priority strategy one student should be following if they want to clear this examination with a great rank. Now when it comes to January to May 2024, now till December, if we are trying to focus on the mains part, we should be able to cover the entirety of the syllabus GS 1, 2, 3, 4 in a very well manner. And the majority of the course areas which are also overlapping in the prelims, now it is the time to go for multiple revisions over here. Multiple revisions along with prelim orientation. And what is the best way to do the multiple revisions of the prelims part is through solving all the MCQs of the PYQs plus joining of a mock test series. That is the best part. And make sure that between January till May 2026, you should be able to revise the GS syllabus of the prelims at least 3 times, 3 to 4 times, and same for the current affairs, almost 3 to 4 times. And then you can expect that you will be able to clear this examination with a good marks, so that even after giving the prelims, you should not be stuck at the boundaries that you are then again under a great degree of stress and confusion that whether we will be able to clear the prelims or not. Minimum 3 to 4 times of revision, and minimum 3 to 4 times of revision of GS and current affairs between January and May 2026. So these are the core things. Now the core part comes as how to do the multiple revisions. So the core thing is that by joining a mock test series. And believe me students, one of the core important aspect of prelims preparation is to identify a mock test series and to start with those mock test series as earliest as possible. Now as we know that the timeline is quite clear, we are sitting at June and we need to prepare for the month of May 2026. Now many students feel that, and they take the prelims preparation in a casual manner, that what mistake that they will do is that between June and December, as I have said, that the majority priority should be given to the mains. However, also I have cautioned that the pre part should also be integrated, and that is where a good mock test can help you. Mock test for the prelims, I am saying. So when you are enrolled in a mock test between June and December, it is trying to serve a very important role, that if you are trying to give the prelim mock test very diligently, very regularly, it will help you not only find the gaps but also to reorient, that recalibrate your approach, so that you are not able to repeat all the mistakes which you are making. However, majority of the students, they will go for joining mocks in the month of December to May. At this junction, all the students, they give the mock. Here you will have less space to reorient or recalibrate your learning strategy. Whatever mistakes you will make, you will never be able to apply in changing the direction of your learning. So it is very much needed that you should try to join mock test for the prelims in the month spanning June and December itself. That is the best part, because with the help of the mock test, you will be able to reorient your learning strategy and recalibrate your direction. However, over here, this is also important between December and May. This is also very crucial, but here it will give you less time. So it is always better to start early, so that it will help you get a very clear-cut idea with respect to what kind of gaps are and what effort needs to be done from your side. Now, from our side, what we are trying to do is that we are coming up with Power Up Prelims Test Series for 2026. And it is comprising of 30 overall tests, which comprises of 1 test for NCERT, and for all the subjects, important subjects, there will be sectional tests and 10 FLTs. Now, what important thing that I wanted to discuss with respect to the Power Up Prelims Test Series is the strategic learning cycle that we are trying to use. Now, whatever we have discussed in the strategy session, the right learning methodology, same thing we are trying to apply with the Power Up Prelims Test Series. So for every test, before you give the test, there will be 0-hour sessions where a subject matter expert will be discussing about a focused strategy, briefing students about how to properly revise that particular subject, how to decode the PYQs and identify the high yielding areas of that particular test. Now at the second step, student will give the test, and as soon as the student will give the test, the second step will kick in. That is, there will be a test breakdown session where a subject matter expert of that particular subject will be discussing all the important questions of the test, and they will be providing you further insights with respect to how to deal and cater with the important questions of those subjects. And thirdly, a very important thing is the reflection and strategy sessions. So after the discussion has been done, the subject matter expert will try to provide guidance with respect to the tricky questions which are there, how to handle such kind of things, how to handle the questions which you find very difficult to manage in the examinations, how to manage different kind of questions which have very trivial data or such kind of questions. So it is following a very strategic learning cycle which will bolster your learning preparation and the strategy in the best way possible. So thank you for very much for attending this thing, and let's begin again, this time stronger, wiser and more focused. Thank you.